The family that prays together stays together. Welcome to our doctrinal reflection. My name is Okello W. Stanislaus from the Catholic Diocese of Bungoma, a student in St. Thomas Aquinas Senior Seminary. And the part of reflection is Mass as the highest point of form of a prayer. In other words, it can be Mass as the ultimate form of worship. In this reflection, we are going to interact with various aspects. Why is the Mass the highest point or highest form of a prayer? How did Jesus show himself as the highest point in this particular part of sharing? And what are these parts of the Mass that shows indeed that it is the highest form of worship? To begin with, Mass is also called the Eucharistic celebration. And this is one of the 7 sacraments of the Catholic Church. And therefore, why is this Mass the highest form of a prayer, form of a worship? In the teachings of the Catholic Church, especially the Catechism of the Catholic Church, number 1324, it states clearly that Eucharist is the source and summit of our Christian life. Why is it the source and summit? Showing that it is the highest point. It is the apex of our Christian life. Because all other sacraments, as well as the pastoral activities, are bound to the Eucharist, or are directed or geared towards it. And that's why it is the highest form of a prayer. And how did Jesus show this? Jesus himself is a representation of his sacrifice on the cross. And when we talk about the sacrifice on the cross, then the aspect of Paschal mystery is being addressed. And in the Paschal mystery, we are considering the aspect of passion, death, and resurrection. It is through the resurrection of Jesus Christ from the dead that our faith is grounded on it. Therefore, Eucharist being the highest form of our prayer. And how did Jesus come up with this? It is through the Eucharist, through the Mass, that we are able to strengthen our communion with God as well as the communion with other human beings. Jesus himself instituted the Eucharist by giving a command to his disciples. That was during the Last Supper. We can confirm the Gospel of Luke, chapter 22, verse 7 and the following, when he commanded them, "Do this in memory of me." Therefore, we continue to celebrate Eucharist, which is Mass, as the highest point of a prayer. On the same note, we find that we have some parts that shows this. For example, through praising, through singing, through giving offerings, through thanksgiving, then we show how it is the highest form of worship, highest form of a prayer. And that's why in the Eucharistic celebration we have various parts. For example, the liturgy of the Word and liturgy of the Eucharist. Where the liturgy of the Word, it is preceded by the introductory rite, whereas the liturgy of the Eucharist is followed by the concluding rites. And we find that in the introductory rite, the Christians, the fellowship, the congregation, people are being called so that they can examine themselves. And how is that? Through the penitential rite, so that people can celebrate this Eucharistic aspect, the Eucharistic sacrifice, when well prepared, because it is the apex, is the highest point of Christian life. Apart from that, we have the liturgy of the Word. And how does this show that Eucharistic celebration is the apex, is the highest form of a prayer? Because through this, we have the readings from the sacred scripture, which gives the morals, the lessons, the teachings, which helps us to show that indeed this is the highest form of a prayer. And in terms of that, we have the aspect of supplication through the prayers of the faithful, showing that in communion with God, we are also in communion with our fellow human beings, our fellow Christians. And that's why we also have the part of Eucharistic celebration itself, the consecration, where the bread and wine, through consubstantiation, are transformed into the body and blood of Christ, the highest point where we meet Christ as the summit of our Eucharistic celebration. And finally, after this, the congregation is sent in the concluding rite to go and preach the gospel, to go and live the same gospel to other people. And therefore, from that particular point, it shows that Eucharistic celebration, which is Mass, is the apex, is the highest form of prayer, the highest form of worship. The family that prays together stays together. Thank you.